So hi, my name is Mark Anthony Ravita, and today I saw the opportunity to talk about my favorite scientist, who is actually a biologist by the name of Charles Darwin. Darwin was born in England in a place I don't really know how to pronounce, and the reason that I chose Darwin is because he's basically the root of everything that biology has come to be. Um, he was born in 1809 and he passed away in 1882, and when he grew up, he was the youngest among five children. His father was a doctor or a healthcare physician, and because of those reasons, he grew up in a very wealthy family. When he grew up after being a kid, well, his family tried to push him to become a doctor just like his father. But Darwin was a little disgusted by the idea that a human body was open in front of him and that operations had to occur. And he was also a bit disgusted by the idea of human blood. When he grew up, Darwin married his first cousin, Emma Wedgwood, and they had 10 children together. Now, if we're going to talk about Darwin, we do have to touch on his famous trip that led to all of his discoveries. So Darwin was invited to sail with one of his partners to sail on the HMS Beagle, which is a trip for 5 years, where they basically went around collecting bird specimens all around South America and comparing them to try to make links. His discoveries occurred because he recognized bird species on the Galapagos Islands that looked very similar to birds on other islands. But he did notice this one difference, and this is where this led to all the discoveries. He learned the differences were environmental based, and he realized that basically the little differences that these species had were because it was beneficial to their environments. And this is where he made the link that the environment will eventually lead to natural selection, and this will make species evolve in a way that will benefit them based on their surroundings. So what Darwin did in this case was he took all the evidence that he collected and he took some time to digest it, and eventually published a book called The Origin of Species on November 24th, 1859, which is a very well-known book in biology. The book talks a lot about his theories from his collective evidence surrounding evolution, natural selection, and as mentioned in the title, the origin of species. Just to give a quick glance at what natural selection is, it's the idea that a dominant part of a species will have a higher chance at survival and reproduction than the weaker group within that species. And this also further connects to evolution because the species will evolve in a way that will advantage them and make them more specialized. So I decided to give a couple of examples of natural selection. So here we have a giraffe as a function of time, and we can see that it has grown a longer neck. The reason for that is that giraffes in a population that had longer necks had more chances of collecting food, and this led to better chances of survival. And since they had better chances of survival, they will reproduce more. And since offspring genetic material is derived from the two parents, this means the offspring also had a chance of having a longer neck. So as a function of time, the giraffe evolved to have a longer neck, and this is one example of natural selection. Here on the right, we just have a little sketch of Darwin's tree of life. It's basically the idea that every species has derived from one, and obviously, well, in the name of science, there has been some scientific protest against this, but it is what he derived as a theory, and this is what he thought was right. So the next topic is a major topic, and it's very important to consider. It's basically how Darwin's theories changed the ideology that he lived in. So at first, it's not very surprising that people were very angry with his work because he lived in a religious era where people saw his work as a challenge to God. Since the Bible essentially says that God created all animals and plants, Darwin's work was a major contradiction to the Bible. Other reasons why his work was not necessarily accepted was because scientists thought that there was an insufficient amount of research to back up his theories. As time went on, though, science evolved and evidence proved most of Darwin's theories, where now we live in a world where people in general are much more reliant on science and much more doubtful about religion. So lastly, we'll be talking about the effects that Darwin's work had on the modern world, and I have a direct exposure to this because I'm a biology student as well. And I can say that most of the things we learn are Darwinian based. And so that being said, Darwin's work has a massive impact on the way biology is taught. We are told to constantly relate to the idea that everything has a function, structure, relationship, and that it evolved to create a superior species or function. So that being said, Darwin's theories are the base of biology and they explain all natural phenomena. To conclude this presentation, I thought it would be pretty neat to give a couple examples of how we perceive things in biology because of Darwin's theories. So at the bottom right here, we have what is a microscopic view of red blood cells. Here we have what is known as white blood cells, which are responsible for fighting off pathogens. Here, this small purple thing is known as a platelet, which enhances blood clotting whenever you cut yourself. Everything around this is plasma, which contains a lot of the nutrients that is to be delivered to the body. But essentially what's important here is that the red blood cell's function is to carry out oxygen to the body. So, and we can notice from this cell that it does not contain a nucleus. And then you start to wonder why that might occur. But if we look at Darwin's theories and evolution and natural selection, we can see that it might be beneficial for the cell not to contain a nucleus because it would be providing more room to carry out oxygen throughout the body. Another example can be made with the use of this bacteria here on the left, which is called E. coli. And what's really cool about E. coli to consider is that it's built an immunity against a certain antibiotic named penicillin. And if we use Darwin's theories to sort of try and understand how this occurred, we can sort of say that possibly E. coli mutated in a way that it advantaged the bacteria against penicillin. And that mutation just kept on reproducing and reproducing until, well, the bacteria was immune to that antibiotic. So all in all, that was a quick glance at Darwin's life, how he came to be, how he made his discoveries, and how they changed the modern world that we live in, and also how it changed the world that he lived in. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much.